Hi guys, welcome back. This is Matt Chat episode number 58, featuring John Van Kenningham's Heroes of Might and Magic. Heroes of Might and Magic is an example of a turn-based strategy game. That's a great genre we really don't see enough anymore. What's great about it, if you play it on a single computer, you can play it in hot seat mode. So you could have one friend take a turn, might be 5-10 minutes, and then you can take over in the chair, play a turn, and so on and so forth. What's great about that is you get little breaks in which you can think about strategies. And it's always fun when you sit back down and you've got some changes that you can review. I really like the setup, and it lends itself very well to a big group of friends over. If you don't want to play something as intensive as a game like StarCraft, real-time strategy that we covered in an earlier episode. Now we can talk about the history of something like Heroes of Might and Magic. The genre, I think we could trace it all the way back to the 70s with a game called Empire. And this game originated on mainframes, but if you're like me, you remember playing this in 1987. There were some remakes. My dad and I played this one on the Commodore Amiga platform. We played this game. I think we played this game until the disc wore out. I just loved it. Later on in 1990, there's a game called Warlords, another turn-based strategy game. Lots of fun. We also played this a lot in college. Remember some great memories of this game with my friends. And there's also a game called King's Bounty, which was Cunningham's first attempt at something that would become Heroes. Now, King's Bounty wasn't very successful. It got like 3 out of 5 stars in most of the magazines. But it's already got a lot of the conventions that will show up in Heroes of Might and Magic. We have the fantasy theme. We have control of the individual units in combat. So it's obviously an important predecessor. And quite a bit of fun. I was having fun with it today. Anyway, we've got a lot to cover here with Heroes, so without further ado, here is Heroes of Might and Magic.
Now once you start the game, of course, you have some basic choices. What kind of opponents do you want? Are you going to play against the computer or human opponents? I didn't have any buddies to play with today, so I'm just going to have to play with the computer. But you can make him dumb, smart, average. Here in Minnesota, all of the computer opponents are above average. Now right away, you probably will notice the colorful, vivid, bright, wonderful-looking game map. It's one of my favorite things about this game. It's well animated. There's all sorts of interesting-looking things out there that you can explore. You'll also notice that you are in charge of a hero, unlike something like Empire. You can't just have these units out by themselves. They can only travel along with the hero or the general. And the generals will have levels they can gain. They can gain special powers, new spells, items. So it's a very important part of the gameplay and very fun. Seems like a lot of strategy games, you just feel like you have very generic sort of pieces with no real personality behind it. The hero system, by contrast, really gives you a really good reason to try to keep your armies alive and not let them be wiped out. Can't just easily replace them. Now I'm looking at one of my cities here, and as you can see, there are all sorts of different structures I can build. Which one I choose to build depends on whether I have enough resources, and sometimes I have to have another structure first. I like to build the unit production buildings first, like the treehouse for these elves. You really don't want to be wandering around this map without a pretty good army behind you. You also are limited in how much you can move every turn. So you want to plan ahead, plan your travel routes ahead so you can hit as many of these resources as possible on each turn. When you find one of these treasure chests, you can either keep the gold for yourself or you can distribute it amongst the peasants. If you do that, you get experience points. Not really sure if Canigum maybe had a little political point he was trying to make there. Now, to help explore the map faster, you can recruit a new hero. I like to get at least 2 heroes. I guess you can have as many as you want. I'm not sure if there's a limit on that or not. But there's different kinds of heroes, and they come with different kinds of troops, as well as abilities. So that's something else to think about. Once you have some additional heroes, you can explore the map faster. And of course, that's important because you need to get resources accumulating as quickly as possible. You don't really know what the computer's up to, or your opponents. You don't want them to come over and be a lot stronger than you when you finally meet up. I thought I'd skip ahead a little bit here to show you one of the battles. You'll be seeing this screen a lot unless you put it on auto battle. And come on, where's the fun in that? The different pieces here have different movement rates. Each turn they can move more or less depending on how bulky they are, whether they have wings. Also, some have ranged attacks like a bow, and some have to get up close like these peasants with their pitchforks. It's nice to have a mix of characters. For instance, these orcs I'm fighting have crossbows, but if I can get up close to them, they can't use those bows anymore, and their other attacks are relatively weak. So there's quite a bit of strategy here that goes into even a simple battle. Now you might be wondering, where is your hero? Well, my hero is heroically sitting in that tent there. You don't actually see the heroes on the battlefield, but they still have effects on your units. They can improve their scores, and later on, if you have a spell book, they can cast spells and have some pretty devastating effects on the enemy. The sequels, as we'll see, the heroes are present on the field. I have to admit, I really like the look of this game. I didn't actually play the first one when I was a kid. I started with the second one. So let's take a look at that one. Now, in the manual to the third game, Canigum has a little story about the second game here. Apparently, they were completely taken aback. They did not expect the Heroes series to be such a hit. And when it was, they really rushed out a sequel as fast as possible. And he wasn't really too happy with it. He prefers the third game. Or at least he did when he made the third game. But you can see there's a lot of improvements here. I really like the option to turn on this grid so that you can see where your characters can move. And there's graphical improvements. We have the heroes on the screen instead of in a tent, for one thing. And there are lots of other improvements. There's a lot more options, structures, and so on. That's a pattern we'll see repeated over the series. Now here is the third game. As you can see, there's a lot, even better production values. We have a lot of CGI here. I think at this point, this Heroes series is probably outselling their Might and Magic flagship franchise. I'm not positive about that, but I know seemed like it was everywhere in the early 2000s. Very good game, high production values. Let's take a look at the gameplay. One thing I liked about this game was the very detailed campaign mode. If you are playing the single player, this adds a lot to it. To have some missions and objectives that fit in the context of a story. Very well done. It amazes me to think that a full decade has passed since I first played this game, but it's aged really, really well. It still looks good, sounds good. I should mention, too, that if you want to play this game, it's well worth seeking out a box copy with the original manuals. They did a really excellent job on the box, and the manuals are great. They're very thick. You get a full-color, fold-out map. A really nice production. Still, though, this is pretty much the same game that Canigum introduced in King's Bounty, 1990. It's got a lot more bells and whistles, of course, better graphics, a lot more to do, but it's still the same formula. I don't know about you, but that doesn't bother me at all. There are, of course, 2 more recent sequels. There's a fourth and a fifth game. I've yet to play those, mostly because I'm still quite satisfied with number 3, but I was looking at some reviews earlier. Apparently they're very good games, got good scores. If you've played them and have an opinion, I'd love to hear it. Just share it with me in the comments here or at Armchair Arcade.
And that's all for this week's Match Chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you get a chance, drop by armchairarcade.com. We've got a lot of good stuff going on there, a lot of new blogs and features there I'm sure you'll be interested in. You should check it out. Thought I would leave you with a pro tip, this time from Napoleon Bonaparte. Do not fight too often with the same enemy, or he may learn all your arts of war. Very true. See you guys next week.